never stop reading the Bible. Which leads us perfectly into our topic. A deep dive into, well, a really remarkable text, Psalm 119.
Right, Psalm 119, it's pretty striking from the get-go. I mean, first off, it's the longest psalm by far. But what's really unique is that basically every single verse mentions the law or some related idea. It's just saturated with it.
Every single verse. Wow, that's intense commitment. And it's not just long, is it? I understand the structure itself is pretty extraordinary, too. It's not just rambling.
Oh, definitely not rambling. It's incredibly structured. Think of it like this. It's got 22 sections, and each section has exactly 8 verses. Now, the interesting part is that these 22 sections line up perfectly with the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet.
Okay, wait. 22 sections, one for each Hebrew letter.
Exactly, but it gets even more detailed. Within each section, say the Aleph section, the first word of every one of those 8 verses starts with Aleph. Then the next section, Bet. Every verse starts with Bet, and so on.
The level of planning there is just mind-boggling. It really suggests something about how the psalmist viewed God's word, doesn't it? Like ordered, complete.
Precisely. It points to this profound intentionality. It's like the form itself mirrors the completeness and reliability of the content. It's designed for deep reflection, maybe even memorization.
Yeah, you can see that. And speaking of the content, you mentioned every verse talks about the law or something similar. But it's not just repeating the same word over and over, is it?
No, not at all. That's another fascinating layer. The psalm uses this rich variety of terms. You'll find law, sure,
right,
but also testimony, precepts, statutes, commandments, judgments. Quite a list.
So different words for essentially God's guidance. Why so many?
Well, it seems each word highlights a slightly different aspect. Law might be the foundation, testimony. Together, they paint this picture of the Torah, God's instruction, as this totally comprehensive guide for all of life. Not just rules, but wisdom for living fully.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a complete guide. And does the psalm itself kind of take you on a journey with this guide? How does it unfold?
It definitely does. It sort of maps out a spiritual progression. It starts, verses 1 to 8, with this real commitment, a pledge to follow God's word.
Right, starting with commitment, and then?
Then, pretty quickly, verses 9 to 16, it shifts into this sense of genuine delight, finding joy in God's commands.
So commitment, then delight. What comes next in this journey?
Well, after that initial phase, the psalmist gets into asking for God's favor, and expressing this really strong desire to turn away from bad choices and just stick to God's path. That's roughly verses 17 to 32.
Okay, so a plea for help to stay on track. And the dedication seems to build from there.
It really does. The next big chunk, verses 33 right through to 96, is all about resolve. I am determined to follow your precepts to find salvation. It's very focused.
Oh, it's a long section of just pure determination.
Yeah.
How does it wrap up?
The later parts, say 97 to 136, focus on anticipating God's grace, especially for those who, really long for his word. And then it culminates, verses 137 to the end, 176, with just outright praise for God's mercy and righteousness and this powerful statement that God's word is truth, full stop.
It's quite a journey from initial commitment through struggle and resolve, right, to praise and finding truth. So bringing it back to us.
Yeah.
What's the big takeaway from this deep dive into Psalm 119? It feels like more than just appreciating a clever poem.
Oh, much more. I think it shows this incredibly deep devotion, obviously, but it connects knowledge and guidance directly to living a full, even joyful life. The structure, the repetition, it all hammers home this idea that for the psalmist, God's instruction wasn't just part of life, it was the framework, the operating system, if you like.
Yeah, the operating system. I like that. It makes you think about how we engage with information and truth, doesn't it?
It really does. This psalm kind of models this intense focus on divine guidance as the core. It really encourages critical thinking about where we find our truth and how central it is to our lives.
So it leaves us with a pretty potent question then. How might embracing guidance so completely, like the psalmist did, change how we navigate, everything today? Our information, our choices.
Yeah. That's the challenge, isn't it? In our world, with so much information coming at us constantly, what would it actually look like to commit that deeply to one foundational source of wisdom and truth for everything?
Something to definitely think about. This deep dive was inspired by materials from the Center Studio.